And when I was going through this, I was, looking at all the things I'd made with Wool and the Gang. It's actually kind of funny because a lot of my firsts are with Wool and the Gang.
Hello and welcome back to my podcast, Tom Sips Into Conversation With. This week on the podcast, I have Nathalie from @Nathalie_knits on Instagram. Before I get into the video, I would like to talk a little bit about today's sponsors. This episode is sponsored by Wool and the Gang. Obsessed with crafts, inspired by fashion, and powered by makers. Selling DIY kits, premium sustainable yarn. Whether you're a novice knitter or a maverick maker, Wool and the Gang have got a project for you. Head on over to woolandthegang.com for more information and stick around to the end of the episode to get 20% discount. Thank you very much, Wool and the Gang, for sponsoring, and back to the episode. So welcome back, or hello if you are new to this podcast. My name's Tom. I am the creator of Knit Slips on Instagram, YouTube and TikTok. In this conversation, I talked to the wonderful Nathalie. Nathalie is a very talented knitter from California who makes wonderful sweaters. It was really nice getting to know Nathalie. She is someone who I've fairly recently started to follow. Nathalie creates these wonderful sweaters and she's got like loads of slogans and stuff on them as well, and they're really awesome to watch. So if you haven't already, make sure you go and check her out on Instagram. There'll be links down in the description, whatever platform you're watching this on or listening to this. Yeah, so in this conversation, Nathalie and I talk about her experience with using Wool and the Gang, what Wool and the Gang yarn she would be, and so much more. I will be back at the end of the episode with a little bit more chat and with a discount code for 20% off Wool and the Gang. So make sure you watch all the way until the end. Yeah, and for now, we zip into the conversation, getting to know Nathalie.
I'm from California. I'm Natalie Paisler. Sorry for putting my name after, but I just graduated college. I actually graduated from UC Santa Barbara with a major in biopsychology, which is totally not related to knitting, but right now I'm back at home in Northern California and I'm applying to some jobs, and then I'm hoping in the next few years to go to graduate school.
Awesome. So what are you hoping to continue studies in graduate school?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm hoping, currently what I'm interested in is sort of social neuroscience, like using neuroscience techniques to ask social psychological questions. But yeah, and then I'm hoping to continue knitting the whole time.
Nice. So how did you get into that?
I first came into college as a biology major, I think, because I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I had an idea, but I knew that I enjoyed biology. And then I got into college. I took a psychology course that I really loved. And then I found out the way my college is set up, you actually come in as like a pre-biology major. Because the school is so big, you have to take a bunch of prerequisite courses and then you end up declaring your official major. And I found out that biopsychology was an option, and I've always been interested in the brain. So the option of combining like psychology and biology, I thought was really interesting to me. So that's when I declared that major and then took some courses in that.
Nice. That sounds really interesting. What do you do from after you had your degree? Like what kind of work do you go into after that?
Personally, what I want to do is research. Like when I was in college, I was a research assistant for 2 different professors, which just like helping along with their research. So what I'm trying to do is apply to some sort of like jobs within colleges in the area of like helping professors with their research is what I'm looking at right now.
Awesome. That sounds pretty cool. So have you been around different parts of America, or have you just kind of stayed in kind of California? Or
I've visited some other places, but I've always lived in California. Yeah.
Cool. What's the weather like over there? Because we've got a bit of a heat wave over in the UK as we're recording this.
I love the weather here. It's always sunny. I was actually talking to my mom about that recently, where I was like, people always complain that California doesn't really have seasons, but I really like it. I love always having lovely weather. And then when I went to college, it was like a beach town, and Southern California is even warmer, and I really loved it. Like I love the warm weather.
Nice. That's cool. Yeah, I don't mind some of the warm weather, but at the moment I think we've got to 31 degrees, which is quite hot for us in the UK. And I think tomorrow is going to be even hotter. So yeah, I
Yeah,
think it's fine
like,
if you're like used to it, but
yeah, it's like 80 degrees Fahrenheit, right? About.
I have no idea what the conversion rate is, to be honest. I don't.
Yeah.
I've like, yeah, I do a lot of cooking for like work and stuff,
Mhm.
but like we work in Celsius. I have no idea about Fahrenheit. I don't quite understand how it works, to be honest.
Mhm.
But
I'd say,
I'll take your word
yeah.
for it.
I think in summer it'd probably like if I'm totally guessing here, but I think in summer generally here it's more like 35 degrees Celsius
Okay.
would be like the average.
Yeah, I think the humidity kind of like plays a big factor as well. Like
Mhm.
we went on holiday to Barcelona recently, and like it was really humid, and I feel like the heat just feels worse. If it's like a dry heat, I feel like I can cope with it a bit better. But when it's like
Mhm.
hot and sticky, it's just like no,
Yeah.
it's not for me.
Yeah, I think that's why California's nice. It's like a nice dry heat.
That's cool.
Not as terrible. Mhm.
Nice. So, how did you get into knitting?
When it's actually a little bit funny because when I was in elementary school, they started a knitting club at my school. And I remember at first I wasn't really interested in it, but then the way they advertised it was you could potentially make money by selling your knit things. And I was like, wow, okay, I can make money. Let me get into this. Not knowing that I wouldn't sell anything for like at least 10 years of knitting. So, but I learned there and then I just kept knitting on and off all throughout school. And I really loved it. It was always very like a calming hobby for me.
Yeah, that's what I've definitely been hearing, like talking to people, is that the kind of calming kind of like thing that happens, just kind of like zoning into just knitting and not having to like think about what else is going on in the world when there's a lot of terrible things going on in the world at the moment. But yeah, it's just like a calming kind of practice. Nice. So that's cool that your school did they had was it like a knitting club or like a, so was it like
Yeah.
outside kind of like your classes, or was it like integrated to like a class or something?
No, it was like an after school club. And then you would just like come, you brought your own stuff, and they taught us how to knit. So.
Nice. That's cool. I don't think, well, they didn't have that when I was at school. So how old? So you were quite young, like teenagery kind of when you started?
Yeah, I think even younger. I must have been like 12, I think.
Do you remember what the first kind of thing you knitted was? Like what were you learning to knit in the class?
I think they started us off with scarves, which I think is a good. I think I didn't even finish mine. I think I like knit half of it and then sewed it into a little bit of a pouch because I don't think I wasn't very excited about having a scarf.
Yeah. Well, you don't really need a scarf, I would guess, that much in California. Like a pouch is probably more handy than a scarf. But nice. Were there many people in that little class, or?
Yeah, I think a surprising amount of people were into it. It was like something like 30 people.
Wow.
Yeah.
Nice.
But also, I mean, clubs weren't really a thing in elementary school. Like at least here in America, after school clubs sort of start in middle school and high school. So I think a lot of people were excited about the idea of there being something.
Gotcha. Because it was like the grown-up kind of kid thing to do.
Yeah.
Nice. That's cool. And then you kind of carried it on. Did you like just keep like chipping away at like knitting every now and again, or was it just like a constant hobby, or did you put it down for a little bit?
I feel like it came and went in waves. There were times where I think in middle school, like I had a lot of free time. So I was doing it pretty constantly. I got really into knitting socks, which I think was helpful because I think it's a really good project to learn techniques through. And it wasn't, I think knitting right now is much trendier and there are a lot of pretty projects and stuff or pretty patterns out there. When I was first starting, I didn't really know any other knitters, especially like not my age. I would like go online to Ravelry and stuff, and all the knitters were, adults or a little bit older. So I was sort of just doing it in my free time. And then when I got into high school, I was just busy with school and stuff. So I did a little bit less, but I was definitely keeping it up on and off. And then,
Mhm.
you know, like everyone, when the pandemic hit, I picked it back up again and I got really into it. And that's
Yeah.
when I first started designing and stuff. So,
Kind of what was the first thing you made while in the gang?
actually, the first thing I made was my first ever sweater. And when I was going through this, looking at all the things I'd made with Wool in the Gang. It's actually kind of funny because a lot of my firsts are with Wool in the Gang. So the first
really?
sweater I ever knit, yeah, it was the first sweater I ever knit, the first sweater I ever designed, my first time working with wool, and my first time working with mohair were all Wool in the Gang yarn. So
Nice.
very fitting.
So, kind of what drew you to Wool in the Gang then?
I think when I first discovered it, it was really exciting for me because it was the first time I had seen like pretty colored yarn. Because at least in America, if you go to like craft stores like Michael's or something, the big ones, the yarn's not the prettiest. The colorways are generally pretty on the more muted side, more like browns and grays, and it's pretty much all acrylic with a bit of cotton. And when I first discovered Wool in the Gang, it was just really exciting for me because it was the first time I'd seen like a very well designed, aesthetically pleasing yarn company.
Yeah, the color range is like just really nice. Like they have like
Mhm.
kind of nice pastels and stuff, which I quite enjoy. And but they also have some like really bright colors that kind of can really pop. But
Yeah.
nice. So do you follow many patterns, or so yeah, how do you kind of knit? Do you like follow a pattern, or do you like to freestyle?
I definitely prefer the freestyle. When I first made a sweater, actually, I want to like give a little shout out to the pattern that I first used, which was the Babs sweater cotton pullover from Happy Love Co. on Etsy. That's when I used Wool in the Gang yarn, but that's when I first made that sweater. It was actually, it's a very simple sort of cut. It's all like just straight down knitting and you sew it all together. And then when I realized how easy it was, I designed my first sweater, which is my autumn tea sweater pattern, which I have free on Ravelry and Ravelry. And then once I figured out like how to knit sweaters, I really wanted to just do my own thing. I love like seeing other people's patterns, but what excites me about knitting is that it's sort of a creative outlet for me. So I got really excited about designing my own things, and I haven't really followed a pattern since then.
That's really cool. So tell me a bit about your process on how you write patterns, because it's something that I it's kind of started from like ages ago. I really want to learn how to like write patterns, but I'm too chaotic, not chaotic, but I write notes at the beginning of like how much I'm casting on, what needles I'm using, and my notes are fairly good at the beginning, and then I just kind of get lost in the creative process. But like, how's your discipline? Like, how's your process?
I feel like for most of my patterns, what it has been is sort of retroactively making a pattern. Like I'll create something that's pretty popular or that I really like, and people will ask for a pattern, and I'll have to figure out my process backwards. I also like have some very rough notes, like how many I cast on, like how many rows I have altogether, just so I can make it, even. But generally, it's a lot of me figuring it out backwards, because what excites me about designing is just getting an idea and making something I really love. And then if people happen to like it, I'll make a pattern from it. But very rarely, I think only once, have I set out to make a pattern before I've knit the actual product.
Oh well, okay. Well, that kind of gives me a bit of hope, because it sounds like,
Yeah.
like I have a few people that have asked me for like patterns and stuff that I've created, because I'm quite a freestyler person. Like I've used one of the gang kits before, and I really like the way that they're like wrote down, and I think they're really easy to follow. But I think because I'm knitting for me mainly, it's like I don't have to worry about time constraints, and I just kind of knit. And if I go wrong or I put it on, it doesn't fit properly, I'm happy to take it back and just do it all over again. So yeah, maybe I need to look into like actually just working out what I've done. and then hopefully I can try and make some patterns. But nice.
Yeah, I think my process is definitely not the neatest or particularly straightforward. So I think you don't need to be super organized to make patterns that people like.
That is kind of good to know.
Yeah.
Because I think that's the thing that's put me off is like I know some people are very organized and they have like a really good clear plan of what they're going to do, and I like generally kind of sketch things out and then I have an idea of what I want to do, but then I just knit it up. Do you use a like a tech editor, or this is something I've just learned about with the podcast? Is so like a knit test editor person is like someone who can take a pattern and like look over to make sure the maths is right and all that stuff. Do you use anyone, or do you just is it all you?
Yeah. Well, what I've done in the past is had test knitters. So that's, I think, sort of the same idea, but it's a couple people where I'll have like a little Google form on my Instagram or something, and people will sign up. And that way, that I think solves a lot of the issues with different sizing and stuff. You'll have people of different sizes all making their own product from your pattern. And then from that process, you can double check that, yeah, your math checks out and that your measurements check out and all that.
Yeah. Because I mean, that's the thing that I also kind of am very aware of. I would like, if I want to create something, I want to make sure that it's something that anyone can make. Doesn't matter what size, doesn't matter what gender, doesn't matter anything. Just like, but then the idea of like trying to scale things up or scale things down kind of blows my mind. I don't know how I would write it down, but like I feel like if I am ever going to write about them, it is going to be more for people who know how to knit and can do a little bit of their own maths. But I don't know whether if that is a thing, like people do that or not, or whether people have like a set plan. I think everyone's a little bit different. So
yeah, it's tricky. It's also, that was something that was very daunting to me at the beginning, also because when you get to larger sizes, it's not just like making it bigger. It also like clothing fits differently. And you want to be very aware of that. I want everyone to be able to make my patterns, and so it was tricky in the beginning figuring that out. I had to use a lot of like online resources for different sizing, and like I asked a lot of other designers like how they did it, and it was definitely a team effort, but it's something you figure out.
Awesome. So what kind of like garments and stuff do you like making? What do you prefer doing?
I almost exclusively make sweaters, but it's also just because sort of what I'm excited about knitting will be a pattern or like a physical pattern like plaid or something, or writing something out. So for me, just like a sweater is a good default option to put that on. But I've also knit like a dress. I love knitting socks as like gifts, but one of my goals is really to make like a sock pattern, like a creative sock pattern. I think that'll be really fun, but I haven't gotten around to that because that's still a little bit daunting to me.
That's cool. Yeah, I saw like on your Instagram, like the sweaters and the dress and stuff that you made look awesome. So they look really cool. I've kind of drifted away from like knitting and making human stuff, and I've started like drifting onto making stuff for my dog. And she's got probably more outfits than I probably do now that I've made. But yeah, I think it's just because there's only like so many sweaters and stuff I feel like I can wear, but I feel like she can get away with wearing a lot of different types of sweaters. So
I would love to get into knitting stuff for my cat, but the thing is we took an stray, and so she is very active and a little bit crazy, and I don't think she would take well to being dressed up.
Yeah, I think you need like a really fairly calm kind of cat to be able to do that.
Not my cat.
Not your cat.
No.
Yeah, I love it when I see people dress up their cats, because I feel like that's probably much harder than dressing up their dogs. Like, what kind of projects are you working on at the moment?
Right now, I'm working on this sort of a vest.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the back, it says, "Can you recommend a good clinical psychologist in the neighborhood?"
Nice.
And then after that, I'm working on, I just got this amazing book of like 1,000 Japanese knitting stitches,
Oh, cool.
which I've been wanting for months because it's got these amazing like colorway stitches. So I'm working on a vest that's got, right now actually with the colors, I'm using like pink and orange. It actually looks like very 80s, but
Nice.
it's going to be that. And then it's going to have a quote from a poem I really like.
That's cool. Well, the 80s is kind of very in fashion at the moment, those kind of color schemes. And I think anyone who's listening to this podcast will kind of get the reference that you're putting on the back of it as well. So nice. That's cool. If you were a yarn from one of the gang, what yarn would you be and why?
I think I would be the happy shiny cotton from Wool and the Gang because I think I'm pretty easygoing. I like warm weather, and you know, I really love the colors that it's available in. Although it's like the same colors that all of Wool and the Gang yarns are, but I love the bright, colorful colors.
Thank you everyone for watching or listening to this podcast episode with the wonderful Nathalie. I really hope that you enjoyed it, and a massive thank you again to Nathalie for finding the time to talk to me, and also thank you very much to One of the Gang for sponsoring. Here is a little advert on how you can get 20% discount from One of the Gang. Thank you again, One of the Gang, for sponsoring this episode. Join the Makers Revolution and get 20% off with my code KNITSIPS20. 20% off excluding the usual kits, bundles and gift cards. This code applies to new customers and existing customers already. For full terms and conditions, go and check out the description down below. Thank you again for One of the Gang for sponsoring this episode. So if you haven't done so already, please make sure you go and follow Nathalie on Instagram. There'll be links down in the description. There's links to her link tree as well, so you can go and check out her on other platforms. It's Nathalie_knits. Please let me know what One of the Gang yarn you would be and why. What's your favourite? What kind of projects have you been working on? I would love to hear down in the comments down below. I really hope you've enjoyed this episode. Thank you very much again for listening or watching this. I'll be back again next week with another episode. That'll be the last episode of this mini kind of 4-part sponsored season. Please remember to like, subscribe, share, and all of that cool stuff. It really helps with getting new viewers to the podcast and helping to grow this channel. I will be back again next week with the last episode of this mini season. I hope you all stay safe and stay crafty. See ya.